you a statement. You're going to tell me. First one, is it an overreaction to say the Cowboys are sabotaging their season by not paying CeeDee Lamb?
It's an overreaction. I think when you use the word sabotage, it often is. Yeah, I think that he'll be there week 1. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm not concerned about him not getting his deal done. I guess the only concern at this point is we're close enough to the start of the season. Like, is he going to be fully ready to take on a full workload in week 1? And if not, that's going to make it tough to beat the Browns.
That's it. Cowboys, feel free to take your time. We're not getting close. Number 2, the Giants have the worst quarterback situation in the NFL.
I think that's an overreaction. I mean, I think the Raiders obviously are not in love with what they have at quarterback at the moment. I can think of another couple of teams. The Giants situation is not ideal, but at least they have the flexibility to move on and do something new after this season. And Daniel Jones had him in the playoffs 2 years ago. Like, that's not nothing.
An eternal optimist, saying Graziano Friday.
Eternal optimist, as all the Giants fans know from my time covering the team.
And finally, if I said Nick Sirianni is coaching for his job this season, you would say?
It's not an overreaction. I think pressure is intense in Philadelphia. They were in the Super Bowl a little over 18 months ago, and then it all fell apart last year after a 10-1 start. If it falls apart again, there's no one left to fire because they already got rid of the coordinator, so you would think Sirianni would be in trouble. But I don't think it will. But yes, if they have another season like they had last year where it ends that way, I could see him being in a lot of trouble, yes.
Well, maybe the pressure will mount up because they made another move yesterday with some sneaky big news coming out of the NFC East. Eagles trading with the Commanders to acquire wide receiver Jahan Dotson. Dotson, a first-round pick in 2022, now lines up next to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to give Philly a third receiver. Here's Dan Orlovsky on the move.
I think this is now giving Philadelphia the best wide receiver trio in football. This was a really good offense to begin with. If Dotson just replicates what he did, which is 50 or so catches and 500 yards at that number 3 wide receiver spot, I don't know of anybody in the NFC that can line up and play man-to-man coverage against those 4 pass catchers.
And the fourth that Orlovsky was talking about, Dallas Goedert, the tight end. We'll get your thought on that in a minute because you're not big on that. But I do want to get Hawk in here first just to
Hawk. He's a
immediately react. Is he right? Are the Eagles the best receiving core in football?
Absolutely. I think he is right. I mean, obviously you can make a case for the Houston Texans as well as the Chicago Bears. But when you look at, again, to Dan's point, what you see from Jahan Dotson, where, is he a number 2? Is he a number 1? Probably not. But when you look at him and say, well, can this guy be in the slot exclusively and take a little bit of attention away from A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on third down? He can absolutely do that. When you look at what Jahan Dotson brings to the table as a wide receiver, it's speed, it's quickness, it's ability to win in one-on-one. And that is different from the outside to the inside as someone who played almost exclusively in the slot. Like, his skill set is built for that. And what the Eagles are asking him to do is far less than what the Commanders were asking him to do as a first-round pick. So I think this actually could be one of those match made in heaven, if Jalen Hurts has the season that we expect.
All right, so Hawk has me sold, Graziano.
Yeah.
You on the other hand are
I'm
not.
skeptical because they got him from a team in their own division, right? Like if he's that much of a kind of a difference making kind of player, is Washington going to trade him to a team they got to play twice a year, right? So look, I think I love Orlovsky and his passion, but you got to put Houston's 3 wide receivers ahead of this group and possibly the Bears, as Hawk mentioned. Dotson hasn't proven it. And like the Eagles, the third-round pick for a number 3 receiver feels like a little bit of a high price. Maybe Hawk is right. He knows more about wide receiver than I'll ever know in my life. But I feel like the Eagles kind of maybe stretched a little bit for this one. If they have the best receiving group in the league, I don't think it's because of the move they made yesterday.
Yeah, and the in-division thing was the one that was a little bit suspect. Why would you trade a guy that you feel can be productive against a team you're going to play twice a year? That, to me, was a little bit of a red flag. But Bart Scott will play along.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Well, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I'm just asking, what in the John Wick is going on here? What type of marker does Howie Roseman have that he's, why would you trade a talented player like that within the division? And what this allows them to do is to play basically out of 11 personnel, right? We call it 3 wides. And you talk about the difference in the pieces together. Sometimes the whole, the sum of the parts is better than the whole. When you think about the ability with Saquon Barkley there as well, and Saquon Barkley, him both, thanks a lot, averaged 5 yards a pop out of that personnel grouping. And you talk about what this is allowing is being able to create more space, right? And it's just creating more space because now everybody has to deal with it. Chan Gailey used to do this a lot. Chan Gailey used to run out of that same personnel grouping, but he ran power runs because now you have to figure out how you're going to match up. Are you going to go sub on first down? Are you going to go big sub on first down? Then they're going to run power runs, out of that personnel group. And if you go with the nickel, then they run the power runs. If you go out and you put the linebacker out there or the big safety, then now they spread you out and they just, death by 1,000 paper cuts because he has so many options.
So, but when Hawk said something, maybe that Dotson will be played better from the slot. Maybe that's more comfortable. Then why didn't the Commanders figure that out?
There, yeah. Look, I think, it's a different regime, right? Coaching staff and front office than the one that drafted him in the first round 2 years ago. So maybe he just wasn't their cup of tea. But again, the red flag is you traded him to a division rival. Yeah. Like, if you thought he was going to make a difference for them, you probably don't make that move. There are other teams out there looking for wide receiver.
But maybe you don't know how to use them because, Hawk is talking about moving him to the slot. But what if you put him out there at the Z or the X and you put and you put A.J. Brown at the slot and you move him like the CeeDee Lamb, getting him matched up against your third best corner, which is usually the nickel. But that nickel is what, 185 pounds? To the Chan Gailey point, you put him in the slot. Now he's going to debo that guy. So now you got a great block to be able to get to the edges when getting Saquon Barkley the ball on the outside perimeter.
But look, no question, Jahan Dotson coming out of Penn State had a lot of talent, didn't live up to it in Washington. If he gets
he was injured his first year. He was right there with Garrett Wilson.